The music director's sigh was a weapon, sharp and dismissive, in the cavernous school auditorium. "I'm sorry, Chloe," Mrs. Gable said, not sounding sorry at all, her eyes scanning a clipboard to avoid the girl's hopeful gaze. "The solo requires a certain purity of tone, a classical training. It's not really your style." The unspoken words, your gospel-infused, soulful style, hung in the air between them. On one side stood Mrs. Gable, the arbiter of a very narrow, very white definition of music. On the other stood 16-year-old Chloe, her choir robe feeling like a costume she'd never truly fit into. The rejection was public, witnessed by the entire 30-member ensemble. What Mrs. Gable didn't know was that this very rejection would set in motion a chain of events leading to a viral solo that would redefine the sound of their choir and prove that the voice she had dismissed was the one the world was waiting to hear. For Chloe, music wasn't just notes on a page, it was a birthright. It was the sound of her grandmother's humming in their kitchen on Sunday mornings, the raw, powerful call and response that shook the foundations of their small neighborhood church. In Mrs. Gable's choir, however, her vibrato was labeled uncontrolled. Her instinct for improvisation was divergent. She was told to blend in, to flatten the very soul of her sound to fit a mold. Each rehearsal was a lesson in quiet erasure. But at home, in her room adorned with posters of Aretha and Whitney, Chloe recorded herself. She poured every ounce of that rejected feeling into her music, her voice a powerful, soaring instrument that carried generations of joy and pain. She posted the videos online not for fame, but for survival, a secret archive of her true self that her choir director was determined to suppress. The crisis came during the state choral competition. The lead soloist, a girl with the pure tone Mrs. Gable prized, was struck with a sudden, severe bout of laryngitis backstage. Panic erupted. The choir was minutes from performing its signature piece, an ambitious arrangement of a classical hymn. Their chances of winning evaporated. Mrs. Gable was pale, frantically scanning the roster for a replacement who could read the impossibly complex sheet music. It was then that the accompanist, a young man who had secretly followed Chloe's online videos, spoke up. "Chloe knows it," he said quietly. "She knows all the parts." Mrs. Gable scoffed. "She can't just sing it, she has to perform it. It requires discipline." But with no other options, she threw her hands up in despair. "Fine, just try not to embarrass us." Chloe didn't need the sheet music. As the piano began, she closed her eyes. For the first few bars, she sang the notes as written, her voice beautiful but restrained. Then she reached the bridge. Instead of the delicate, contained phrasing Mrs. Gable had drilled into them, Chloe let the music breathe. She took a liberty, holding a note, letting it swell with a raw, emotional vibrato that turned the sterile hymn into a desperate prayer. Then she did the unthinkable. She improvised. She added a single, soulful run that ascended like a bird taking flight, a flourish that wasn't a T on the page but was born directly from the heart of the song. The audience, which had been politely attentive, fell into a stunned, electric silence. This wasn't just singing, it was a revelation. Backstage, Mrs. Gable was initially horrified. Then she watched the audience. She saw tears. She saw people leaning forward, captivated. A judge wiped his eye. In that moment, the choir director's musical world fractured. After the performance, which won them a standing ovation and the first-place trophy, Mrs. Gable approached Chloe. "That interpretation was unexpected," she began, her voice strained. "We can work on refining it. We'll feature you more prominently next season under my direction, of course." She was trying to co-opt Chloe's genius to frame it as a product of her own eventual guidance. Chloe, still buzzing with the energy of her performance, simply shook her head. "No," she said softly. "You don't get to refine what you tried to silence. My voice doesn't need your direction. It needed your respect. The story exploded when a video of the solo, recorded on a phone from the audience, went viral. It wasn't just the performance. It was the story behind it, leaked by other choir members. The headline read, "Teens Rejected Solo Style Wins State Competition Goes Viral." The backstory of her grandmother's influence, her online secret life as a singer, and Mrs. Gable's systemic dismissal came to light. The choir director wasn't just strict. She was a symbol of the cultural gatekeeping that stifles authentic artistry. Facing immense pressure, the school board initiated a review of the music curriculum. In the wake of the storm, a transformation began. Chloe was not just given solos, she was asked to help arrange them. The school choir began incorporating spirituals and gospel music into its repertoire, with Chloe leading workshops. Mrs. Gable, after a period of reflection, offered a genuine private apology. "I was teaching notes," she admitted. "You were teaching us how to feel." The underdog had not just won a trophy. She had changed the entire sound of the choir, proving that the most powerful voice is always your own. This story proves that the greatest art isn't about perfect technique, but about authentic soul, and that the voice a system tries to suppress is often the one destined to redefine it. If this story of hidden talent and resonant justice touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more tales of voices that refuse to be silenced.